Thank the Force. Star Wars News Net Live is here because it's Thursday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time. I am Tyler, joined on this Thursday night by Luke and Tom here for a wonderful time of talking Star Wars. And we have a number of items on the agenda today, which is really exciting. Not that there is any like hard-hitting, crazy news that is dropped, but there's just a little fun nuggets that are out there today. So we're going to talk about some of the Sabine Wren, news that's making its way on the interwebs, with Rebels writer Henry Gilroy stating that it was absolutely not the plan for her to be written to be a Jedi. And of course, we have some information on the Mandalorian and how there is a season 4 sitting on a desk somewhere, and that adaptation could possibly make its way there, but it is different than the movie. It is not the same, as many of us have long believed that they had just readapted season 4 into a film. So there's that. We celebrated Life Day this week. It's a time of gratitude and thankfulness in the Star Wars universe. I'm sure we can all apply a little gratitude to our lives here as well. And of course, we got to look at Young Jedi Adventures season 3. We're not going to talk about that today, but I just wanted to mention it because our good friends Kylis and Nubs deserve a little love in their life. But that's kind of the Star Wars rundown for you. Of course, there's going to be many more of these rundowns in your future because there is a Thursday, believe it or not, in every week ever. So we'll always be here to provide you with that hard-hitting news right there. So Luke, Tom, how are we doing today? How are the vibes? Are we looking forward to a nice Star Wars filled discussion? Whoa, I kind of like this, but I'll drop it back to
forward to it. Yeah.
Oops, I just kicked you guys
look at
out.
that. It's just Tyler tonight, guys. Actually, psych. But no, super excited.
I pulled this is now
the first galactic empire.
A peaceful transition to a secure society. I'm excited for Rebels talk because this is my favorite animated series. It probably even beats out some live action shows. So I always love a talk about Rebels, even if it's something that maybe doesn't have a wonderful vibe to it. It's like, was this supposed to be?
It's going
Wasn't
down
supposed to
tonight,
be.
Luke.
So Rebels talk.
Down.
Before we get into it, one thing I did like is that he didn't just make a blanket statement. First of all, he was a writer on the show, but he also gave his reasons why he felt the story went in an unexpected direction, or why it didn't go as planned. So it's good to have backup instead of just trying to respect the lore.
Absolutely.
That's right.
On the respect the lore. He has been on the respect the lore bit. He's had enough. Honestly, Tom's had enough. Tom, how are you doing right now? What is your current vibe state?
I'm just so happy to be back. I really missed not being here last week, so I listened to the discussion that you guys had about Disney Plus. It was really good. I listened to it on the way to my parents, so that's great. But I wanted to jump in so many times in the conversation and I couldn't. But it's good to be here. A little bit of a crazy, hectic day, but happy to talk Star Wars with my guys.
Let's get into it, shall we? There are two main stories that we're going to be talking about today. And actually, you know what? Let's pause for a minute because I do have a quick question for both of you. And this is centered around Life Day. We are celebrating life here in the Star Wars galaxy. But, Life Day is a time of rejoice, much like the Thanksgiving season that some of us are going to be celebrating here in the States. But I want to ask you both right now, what are you most thankful for on this post-Life Day? Pretend like it's Life Day right now. What are you most thankful for this year in the world of Star Wars? What would that be? And I will expect 2 answers from you. So I start thinking already about this, okay? I'm going to talk and kind of draw this out a little bit as the ideas and all of the Star Wars projects, Star Wars news begin to just kind of percolate in your mind for a moment. But I want to know the most, the mainstream, what are you most thankful for this year in Star Wars? And then maybe a more niche, what are you most appreciating in the world of Star Wars? And then lastly, what are you looking forward to most in the world of Star Wars? And I already pre-prepared mine, so if you'd like me to go first to give you a moment to talk, I will certainly allow that.
So we're gonna go for more of like a broad and then a niche and then what we're looking forward to the most. Because I think I can
It doesn't have to be something like really specific, like this, a specific comic or something. Just maybe something other than, I feel like Andor might make its way into this conversation, right? But like everyone, appreciates it, but maybe not, who knows? But I got my 3 ready to go. If you need me to go first while you're thinking, if not, if you're ready to go, of course, I will throw it to one of you.
you should maybe set the example because I have some thoughts, but I
Okay.
don't know if they would like be what you were looking for. So
Okay. So here we go. My number 1 most thankful thing, this should not be a surprise, but maybe it will be, is the conclusion of the High Republic. It was Trials of the Jedi. That is my number 1 Star Wars thing I was most thankful for. And maybe that is controversial for me to put a book for a High Republic initiative above Andor, which is one of the best TV series I've ever seen. But when I think about the number of hours that I have spent reading the High Republic, talking about the High Republic with Luke on the Timeline show, and the number of hours I will continue to spend on the High Republic as I reread, a lot of the Phase 3 stuff coming up, there's been very few times in my life where I've read something and genuinely had to just pause and just be present with myself and my own thoughts for a while. And to me, there's something magical about doing that with a show. There's something which I did for Andor. There's something magical about doing that with a movie, but something that I can hold in my hands and like tangibly have. And then the journey that I personally went on with the High Republic over the last several years now, like multiple years, was something that was really special to me, because going into it, I did not anticipate liking the High Republic that much. I was kind of iffy on the whole initiative at the beginning, but I became hooked. I only started reading it because I knew Luke was going to read it, and I knew one of our other friends was going to read it. So I just decided to join them in like that journey, and it became the most satisfying, book journey I've ever had. So that's my number 1, most thankful for. My smaller, like most thankful for thing this year is the hunt for Ben Solo. So I'm going to just not even mention Andor, and that's weird to say because it was amazing, and I'm not discrediting it. But the hunt for Ben Solo just was this revival in my soul of how I should feel about a Star Wars project. And that is not to say I support everything that the hunt for Ben Solo was going to be, like, or if that project even needed to happen, but there was a revival in my soul for the excitement that I want to feel for a Star Wars project. Just the thought of if that could happen has to it just erupted and made me just so excited. And the thought that I think just knowing that Adam Driver wanted to be in more Star Wars and probably still wants to be in more Star Wars is like it means this means something to me, right? So that's it. And then what am I looking forward to most? It has to be the Mandalorian and Grogu. It just has to be. And I was thinking more towards next year. I think I would look forward to Starfighter more than, anything coming out next year. But just being back for just 2026 on the big screen, buying an IMAX ticket, seeing everything on IMAX, that is what I am looking forward to most for 2026. So my most thankful for this year was Trials of the Jedi by Charles Soule. My smaller, more maybe not like a mainstream thing would have been the Hunt for Ben Solo news, Adam Driver, and then my most looking forward to Mandalorian and Grogu.
Tom, do you want to take it or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go if that's okay. Every day I wake up and a smile is on my face, realizing that Andor exists. So I will say I'm the most thankful for that show. It took Star Wars to new heights for me, and it coming from my first introduction was the original trilogy, so it kind of in that time period it just really for me it just was very special, and it was just crafted so well from in every aspect. So I am just so grateful that exists. So, so yeah, that's number one. The other thing I have to say is that I'm so thankful this year for joining the Star Wars Newsnet family.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when the news dropped that they were going to be making more Star Wars films, I remember there used to be a site that I followed. Probably, I don't know if I should mention it here, but there was a site I followed, a fan site during the prequel era, which was like kind of my lifeline to what was going on in a time when really there wasn't social media, so there wasn't too much really. You had to really find the information. It was there, but you had to find it. But the first one I came across, that site kind of wasn't really doing updates like it used to. The first one I came across was Star Wars Newsnet. And I think it was Star Wars Episode 7 news or something at the time, because that was the big thing that dropped, that they were making Episode 7. So this year I joined the team, was able to write some articles for the website, and of course met you fine gentlemen, and really enjoy that. So I'm super thankful for that this year. I guess as far as something to look forward to, that's tricky. There's a lot of things I'm looking forward to. You mentioned the Hunt for Ben Solo. I'm looking forward to where that story goes, and not so much even this. I get a lot of satisfaction, kind of like what you said, not so much as if it ever happens or what it could have been, but I get satisfaction in that the fan base for a while that was so, I guess, divided has become like united on that to the most part, for the most part. So that's fun. I was passing by a movie theater today, and I'm thinking that shortly there will be another Star Wars movie in theaters. So that made me excited, with Mandalorian and Grogu. So it's kind of like a tie there, what I'm looking forward to.
I love that. Love that. Luke, real quick, drop your 3.
Yeah, you guys have taken the great ones. So I'm going to be reaching here a little bit. I'm going to not try to duplicate anything.
Luke, be your authentic self. Be who you are meant to be. Do not try to go away from what your heart originally desired just because I said something, just because Tom said something. It's okay. Like, go ahead and share your initial things. I would love
you
to.
Sound like Cyan Holt talking to Emmerich Kaftor right now.
Let me just reach out and grab your hand. Place your hand in mine.
So
and I
I'm
will
going
give
to
you a
say
hug as we go on this journey together.
the main thing, and I didn't realize, I'm glad other people went first because I was about to maybe like screw it up, but I'm still doing it. I didn't realize it was locked into 2025, but I'm just going to say the Solo family, because Han Solo is the coolest character in Star Wars, hands down. He's just great to think about. His wife, Leia, is just the strongest female character. His son, Ben Solo, super cool, interesting. Obviously, we've talked about already that like the Hunt for Ben Solo stirred up a lot of actually like connectedness for people. Like we all kind of rallied behind it. That was a lot of fun. So just the Solo family this year, I've taken time to appreciate them as a whole. And they're like intrinsically tied to the Skywalker family. I love the Solo family.
Of course.
And even, it's not, there's a niche like little comic going on right now called The Hunt for the Falcon, starring, it's all about old man Han and Chewie. So I'll read that whenever.
I wonder how that's going to finish. I wonder how that's going to conclude. You wonder what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going. But
think they're ever going to find it?
We'll never know. I think my niche. No, hold on. Gosh, yeah, I'm gonna have to just say the way that the High Republic ended is my a little bit more niche one. Being someone who just it's a smaller part of the community of Star Wars, but like I just really love the books and the comics. They just mean a lot to me. You can just physically hold them, and the process of reading a book is being invited into the storytelling, because you're doing the lighting, you're doing the casting, you're you're creating all the scenes. So it just feels very intimate to like read a story that way. And for Star Wars to have such a, emphasis on this side of storytelling where all of this stuff was publishing, like that was really cool for me. And it ended well. Not a lot of projects can say that they had a good ending, even if they had a good run. So impressive to do. Thing I'm most looking forward to. How about we go with some Maul Shadow Lord, the animated series coming in probably February, March-ish of next year, sometime early. That's going to be interesting. I don't care. Okay, I haven't seen enough Maul. He's cool. Let me see more Maul. I'm ready. What is he doing? How did he get to Malachor? How did he get off that planet?
I am absolutely laughing so hard at Manslayer's message when we played the game for like Clone Wars villains, and the last one I had was Borkus from Clone Wars, and he predicted that in the chat, like what the last one was gonna be before I I said it. And he said Borkus,
I love
and
that
that's like his
Manslayer.
number 2. Oh my goodness. That's so good. That's so good. Luke, I'm so glad you mentioned the High Republic as well. And because I had a feeling you weren't going to mention it because I already mentioned it. And I was like, no, I know how important the High Republic is to you as well. And how we've bonded. Our friendship has grown so much because of that. So I wanted you to highlight that. So I just looked on the spreadsheet for the timeline show. Episode 88 currently is what Trials of the Jedi is slated to be. We just finished episode 55. So in theory here, if we exclude, I mean, obviously that episode 88 will probably be pushed to the hundreds because of season 3 of Young Jedi Adventures that's coming out, which will probably come out before. So, we probably are almost, I would say we're probably right at halfway because Trials of the Jedi will probably be pushed to like episode 90 to 100. We should honestly try to just shoot for that being our 100th episode. Honestly, like
we'll force it to happen.
We'll force that to happen. But to know that we're halfway through the High Republic on the timeline show, we still have a lot more left because there is a part of me when I finished reading, and I said this before, when I finished reading Trials of the Jedi, and I did not mean for this to turn into the High Republic show, but apparently it is for right now. We're going to talk about Sabine, and we're going to talk about Mando soon. But when I finished reading the book, you know how every time you finish a show, a series of movies, a big movie, there's like this hole that opens up inside of you, like in your soul, essentially, because you've gained so much through the experience, but now you have lost the feeling of getting ready for the next one or wondering what else could happen in the story. And it's concluded, it's done, and there's a part of you that you've left in that journey. And you feel that every time you complete something. And when I finished Trials of the Jedi, one of the first things I thought about was I'm so glad that Luke and I are doing the timeline show because it gives me a reason to go back and read like phase 3 and to revisit these again over the next year and a half and continue to like fall in love with those stories and be able to almost process it a second time and articulate those thoughts out there for a group of people. So I don't know. That's very thankful for that. But you guys ready to get into some of the meat and potatoes of tonight's episode? So let's go ahead. If you guys are okay, I really kind of want to start with the Sabine story, which I think is a testament to some issues going on at Lucasfilm, maybe in terms of storytelling. But I was just curious on your guys' thoughts. Both, did you see this coming from Sabine when you were watching Rebels? Was this something that crossed your mind that this would be a possible arc for her if they continued her story? And then because when Ahsoka started, I don't know if we were thinking that she was just gonna be a Jedi and be trained as a Jedi. That really wasn't on my mind. And then my second question stemming from that to you both is, you think the story is sound? Are you comfortable with her using the Force, being a Jedi? Not from the standpoint of Sabine shouldn't use the Force, but comfortable with the way that the story arc has been delivered. Like, is it a satisfying story? Do you think it is cohesive and makes sense to you? Or do you kind of wish she had remained the warrior Mandalorian that she was as we knew her before Ahsoka season 1?
I'll jump in. So I didn't feel led to believe that she was going to be a Jedi. I don't think there were any breadcrumbs in Rebels. That's kind of like what the article said so much. That's what Henry Gilroy was probably alluding to, is
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't led to be there. That's not what he really intended. And so obviously, I felt a little disjointed seeing that happen, just
Mm-hmm.
because that was not something I had processed or wanted. I will say, like, the thought can cross your mind during Rebels when she is training with the dark saber. It's not very often. I don't think it's ever happened where you see a character training with a lightsaber and they're not a Jedi or a Sith. So she's training with the dark saber. You're maybe tossing around for 2 episodes of Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Is she gonna like learn to be a force user? Is that required to wield this saber? Um, it's not. Like, she kind of balances herself out emotionally, and that's what's been tearing her up. That's why the sword felt heavy. It feels lighter when you're more in balance with yourself. Awesome arc, awesome stuff there in Rebels.
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't feel like that was obviously heading us
Mm-hmm.
toward her path of being a Jedi. So when I saw that play out in Ahsoka, I did feel um, mixed up about it. I was like, I don't think that's not the Sabine that I like
Right, that
pictured
you are
happening.
familiar with. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not that I was familiar with. So um, how I sit with it now is that we can't unrelease Ahsoka season 1. So how do we make sense of what we've done now? She
Mm-hmm.
is she has trained with Ahsoka. She's trained, they had a falling out, they're getting back together, patching things up. She has used the force to get Ezra back. Um so I'm looking forward to see how season 2 handles this, because we feel like we
Mm-hmm.
kind of got left off with her starting to show that she can use the force. So is that going to continue to be a major role in season 2? Is that going to be like,
No, it
well,
has to be. If it's
people
not,
didn't
it's
like that, we're
ridiculous.
going to maybe brush it under the rug? Like, horrible decision. I don't think they'd do that, but
Yeah.
I'm curious what kind of importance that holds.
I
That's my
have to
thoughts,
do
quick
a
and dirty.
yeah. I feel like I need to do a Rebels rewatch because I really enjoyed that arc with the dark saber and her in Rebels, and like Henry Gilroy was saying, they flirted with the idea, but it looked like I like actually what he said. He actually said that you don't have to be a Jedi to have Jedi ideals, which I think
Yeah.
is very important.
Great.
And I think that training her, basically it was really, symbolizing her leadership as a Mandalorian and what she could bring actually to that culture at that period in
Mm-hmm.
time. So I don't think her being a Jedi was, I don't know, it appears it wasn't intended back
Yep.
then. I don't know. And then I'm like, well, what did Ahsoka see in her to train her? And even why am I blanking on the droid? Why did he even made a comment?
Oh,
Uh,
Hu Yang?
Hu Yang, thank you. That she wouldn't have been probably part of the Jedi Order back in the prequel era, in those times, because she didn't show any remarkable, I guess, aptitude. But maybe at this period in time that it's so scarce, the Jedi are pretty scarce, that they were looking, to train. Maybe Kanan had some conversation with Hera or Ezra, or Ahsoka before he died. I don't know, like, after he was working with her in the dark side, but it to me it doesn't seem like it was a natural progression of her character. So yeah, and I think maybe it was also handled a little clunky in Ahsoka season 1. So I'm curious to see what happens. I'm keeping my mind open. I mean, obviously, when you say it wasn't intended, he does back up, which is interesting. I like how he says that. Not so much that they took my character away and made her do this or something, or this person I was writing for. But I like how he said that it seemed like it was retreading Ezra's story, which that kind of makes me a little bit more, not angry, but like, yeah, they probably didn't need to do that. So I'm curious to see where it goes. I mean, like you said, season 1 has been released, so it happened, right? So where do they take it next? You know,
There is a problem that exists that I have said many times, and it is that Filoni, who I really love Dave Filoni, but he has gotten to a point where he is powerful enough where I don't think has people in the room to tell him no anymore. In certain regards, I think that Filoni, especially in Ahsoka season 1, could have really benefited from having more people in the room, more writers in the room to kind of flesh out what a story for Ahsoka season 2 are going to be. And I don't think that there is like anyone to check Filoni on maybe some of the ideas that frankly are great sounding ideas when you're playing with the toys in the sandbox, as Filoni and Favreau like to use. But just because I took my Darth Vader figure and had him whirling around the blue lightsaber suddenly going, and taking on, droids like he's in the Clone Wars, doesn't mean that we should adapt that into a Star Wars story. I think that for Dave to just have us expect everyone to just jump in with this character that we have a very large history with and just be like, okay, she's like a Jedi training now with absolutely no backstory given to their time together is a disservice to the people who watched Rebels and were really excited for this show. And then for the individuals that were coming into Ahsoka not having watched Rebels, you're watching this show going, okay, this is someone who is being trained to be a Jedi, but has never used the Force. Like, that's interesting. Like, I'm curious what that could mean. But even from a casual standpoint, that's probably something they can get around. Like, oh, they just haven't used it. You might not even pick up on that until the end. But then every bit of interesting exposition and any expository dumps that happen about their relationship doesn't come from the two of them. It comes from other characters talking about it, or like when Ezra's just info dumped from Huyang on what happened between the two of them. So none of that's resolved between the two characters that actually matter in the situation, which is Ahsoka and Sabine. And if you've watched Rebels and you tell me that you think that the seeds are planted for her to be a Jedi, I just think you're insane. I think that is ridiculous. Even for, I get the whole dark saber thing, but that was, to me, whenever I watched that scene, I never once think Force sensitivity. I never once think Jedi. I never go that route because it's the dark saber, and the way the dark saber has this weird connection to just Mandalorians in general and like those who are like wielding it, right? And I just 100% felt like this is some sort of innate Mandalorianness that she is having to connect with. It's more about what personal doubts and personal struggles she needs to put aside, the walls that she needs to tear down to help this work. And it just goes back to what Gilroy said and what Tom hit on a moment ago, which was you can have Jedi ideals without being a Jedi. And I think that we kind of lost sight of that with, Sabine in Ahsoka season 1. But like you guys said, the story's out there. It's made sense. But Gilroy said it too. He goes, we were retreading this, and I thought that would have been way more interesting than her using the Force for the first time by launching Ezra 100 feet in the air. And that's something that I've said many times, that the first time she used the Force to grab the saber and then, pushing Ezra, it was not handled well. So, but it's done. It's over with. What can they do in season 2 to help us who are in this position feel like the journey is worthwhile and cohesive? That is the question we need to be asking for sure moving forward. Because I'll be honest, if in Ahsoka season 2, Sabine suddenly just force grabbing everything, force pushing people, and making these giant leaps in the air, and the series picks up 5 hours after season 1 ended, I'm gonna be a little hesitant on it. I'm like, what is going on here?
My little comment I'll throw in, now that we know, I feel like the problem is trying to bridge the gap between Rebels and Ahsoka season 1, because it doesn't feel like it was built for us. We have to build it ourselves, which is annoying as viewers. We want to see the story play out before us and come along on that journey and not have to build it with you sometimes. And so to see that she's using the Force now and trying to make sense of that from where Rebels ended, you can kind of get there. And that's because her father figure, who was this great Jedi, loving person, loved the mother figure, he passes away, he dies, does a great Jedi act. Her brother Ezra uses the Force as a great Jedi, sacrifices himself, saves so many people. Kanan saved her, Ezra saved Lothal. And so now she's left with like a very decimated family. She's got Hera, they kind of split off. She's got Ahsoka kind of around as like the weird aunt. And so I can see that, like, well, if that's all I've got, like, and I'm super torn up about this, maybe I'll just pour myself into being with Ahsoka and we'll go try to find Ezra. And on our time trying to find him, she's doing Jedi meditation, she's training in the Force. What am I going to do? Blaster practice? Might as well like join in. And I could see it being a very slow process.
But they picked up each other before they went go looking for Ezra. Like they were training as soon. It makes it seem like they were training for years, and it wasn't just to go find Ezra. It was through a lot of things, and it said there how they were training, and where Ahsoka felt like Sabine was training for the wrong reasons when it came to like the siege of Mandalore and the purge of Mandalore, not the siege of Mandalore, the purging of Mandalore. And there was anger there from her as she wanted to almost get revenge. And that's why Ahsoka was worried and then decided to pull away there. But Tom, I'm curious, where are you at right now?
Yeah, I'm thinking, why does Ahsoka want to train Jedi? From where we left her off. So I'm thinking, and I know you guys are kind of going to cringe when I say what I'm going to say, but Luke has to have something to do with this. So we haven't seen Luke and Ahsoka meeting, right? And probably what that would mean, and that we see her, Ahsoka, and Luke in the Book of Boba Fett when he's talking about building the school, and Ahsoka seems all on board, even though she has stated that she's not a Jedi. So something must have
worst scene ever.
You don't like that scene?
That scene's trash. I love Star Wars. That scene sucks. I hate it.
Oh,
I genuinely hate that scene because it's just so it makes no sense because like their exchange, he literally just goes, I'm worried about him or something. Like Luke says something really random about Grogu, and it felt like they were just gonna put this line in here no matter what. And she's just like, you're so much like your father. Because of what? Like nothing he did there reminded me of Anakin at all. And you can't tell me that it reminded anyone of Anakin. And it was like, we're going to force that scene in there. She's there. We don't really see her offering much guidance at all. And then she just leaves, and we have no explanation as to why she's supporting this Jedi. You're going to put Anakin or Ahsoka and Luke in their first scene together, and you're going to make it clunky like that. It frustrates the heck out of me.
I might have been blinded by my amazement to see them both together.
It was amazing to see them both together. I was just so frustrated by the result.
When you say that, I see what you're saying, and I love that line, and it probably could have been delivered in a different context. But I love that it happened. Don't hate me.
Because maybe she sees herself as that a Grogu figure, and that's what Anakin would often say over his shoulder to Obi-Wan, like, man, I'm worried about her.
The thing that I saw in that, the way she looks at him, I love the way she looks at Luke and says, you're like so much like your father. To me, that just, I love that, but I understand what you're saying.
It just felt like we got the cheapest version, clunkiest version of an interaction of two characters that have a lot to talk about and a lot to say each other. And it said because we probably can't deliver some intense emotional scene with Luke because we're using the technology that we're using, and instead of having like two people just sitting in a room talking, it was like we had cringe Ahsoka just kind of looking and giving that look, and then we had Luke just giving his, okay, will I ever see you again? And she's like, maybe. And it was just weird because we had never seen her really embrace being a Jedi again. And it's like, oh, she's now helping. And which I get that she would want to help Anakin's son. Like, I totally understand that. And I don't need her to tell me that to rationalize it. But it's just like, why? Like, they're in the scene together, but there's nothing substantive that came from that. And so if I just wish something substantive had come from that scene, because it's just a whole frustration of how many times we've talked about before that scene, even like, oh my gosh, Ahsoka and Luke, like for years we've talked about what would that look like, and then we finally get it, and we're like, really? Like, there was just such an opportunity missed there, and Luke surely could have something to say here about why Ahsoka's wanting to be, training Jedi and doing all of that. It doesn't really, we don't have a lot of context to it. Again, I think it just comes down from Dave not necessarily having, a checks and balances, like a Henry Gilroy in the room to say like, hey, this is what we actually built with this character and maybe where we should go moving forward.
Could be. I kind of appreciated that there's a little nod to Anakin because Ahsoka knew him longer, and at this point she has no one else in the galaxy, the universe at all, to talk about him with, especially in the manner that she would want to. Remember the good times, because Luke was the only other person alive who even could see the good in him. Leia, his own daughter, is like her career is ruined because she is related to him at some point. So I think there needs to be a little nod that like these two characters are the only two that can even connect over this.
That could connect over caring about a kid. Like those are the only
over
two
Anakin.
Characters that could connect. But like Anakin there's no place in it. Go watch that scene tonight. I'm telling you, go watch that scene tonight. Take the nostalgia of Anakin Skywalker and like take the nostalgia out of it and tell me that scene is not the most clunky. Makes no sense why she would just randomly say that in that moment. It was so annoying. I'm still annoyed by it.
Well, I feel like we're missing something, right? We're missing a scene. We're missing a sequence. We're missing their first meeting. Will they show that to us? I don't know. I don't know if they want to keep that. It was weird that it showed up outside of the Mandalorian show. That it showed up in the Book of Boba Fett.
For 10 seconds.
Yeah, but I don't care what anyone says. A lot of people slam the writing of that episode, but I love that episode.
It's a fine episode. That segment just pisses me off because it was the classic and like line of them like, we're playing with our toys in the sandbox. That was the line, and that was it right there. We were just like, oh, let's just do this real quick and let's just throw it in here, and like, oh, we got to talk about Anakin real quick. I mean, it was just like, oh, I guess Ahsoka and Luke are together. They got to mention Anakin, right? So what's the easiest way we can do that with plausible deniability for why this is taking place? I guess, oh yeah, you can't knock us. We put Anakin in there. See, he's right there. We mentioned him. And of course they're going to talk about him. Oh, but nothing, there's no substance. And that's what pisses me off. And you will never convince me. I'm telling you, go watch that scene. Go watch that scene and get rid of, and Luke, wipe that smile off your face. Because I'm telling you, go watch it without the nostalgia. Like, try to put the nostalgia factor out, and think about how grossly disappointing it is.
It's so hard to squash nostalgia. Luke, Ahsoka, and Anakin are like part of a scene. You know what I'm saying? But I understand what you're saying. I understand. I respect your opinion. I just just the fact that they were together really, like, I think for me it really landed. But I see what you're saying, and you have valid points. I'm not invalidating.
No, I love seeing them together. Maybe if I just mute it when I'm watching them together, I'll really enjoy it.
I mean,
love it.
Obviously the technology has come so far, but it's not perfect yet. So I do hope they recast the young Luke if Luke shows up again. You know how I feel about Luke. So,
I think it's a little overstated that I think it's taken the wrong way when Ahsoka says, "I am no Jedi." I know we're kind of getting off on a real tangent here, but I don't think she's like trying to be like literal displaying a fact like I am no longer a Jedi. She's totally still upholding Jedi ideals, and she's being a great Jedi.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
Her whole life.
Well,
so
yeah, you know, I don't want to cut you off, Luke, but I think that whenever she says that, it's almost like she's making a statement with, "I don't stand for how the Jedi were."
Yeah,
the order that kind of banished her and that try to then you know, kind of bring her back in, and then she was like, it said, "I'm done with this." So, and you know, Luke, we don't know all about what Luke is up to as far as how he wants to reestablish the order. So she may find that it's in line with how she feels, and like they want to kind of correct some of the mistakes of the past. So, I mean, honestly, we talk about Rey's new Jedi Order, but I really wanted to see Luke's Jedi Order, and what that was about. And hopefully, you know, we'll get a chance to see it. I don't care if it's an animated show. I love the novels from, you know, they're legends now, but the new Jedi Academy or the Jedi Academy novels. So I would love to see that, and because I think that would also inform what they're going to do going forward if they get to the Rey story, which I think they ultimately will. But yeah, I'm curious to see, because I assume if they do Rey's new Jedi Order, that they're gonna get Mark Hamill back to be at least make some kind of appearance and maybe inform some of the things she's gonna do or what worked and what didn't. So but I want to see what Luke was establishing and what he was doing in that whole time period.
Well, I don't need I don't need a reason for Ahsoka to be talking to Luke at all and like assisting Luke in his endeavors with the Jedi. Like there isn't like he is the connection. They're forever bonded through Anakin. Like that is they are, you know, Anakin is her older brother, and in a way, like, you know, she is connected to Luke through that relationship, right? And so I don't even need her to be, "Oh, I'm all in on being a Jedi and helping you with the Jedi," for her to be there to assist him. It's like he's my closest thing that she has to family in a lot of regard, in most regards here. So her just going out and helping, I don't even need her to accept that. The weird thing is, to bring it back to Sabine, but why Sabine? Why did you go to Sabine and want to train Sabine here? Because when they go off to find Ezra, there is they talk about the baggage and the history between them. So why did you take on, quote unquote, an apprentice at all? Like, what happened after you got out of the world between worlds that made you do that? So I just am not sure why they just felt like we should all jump right on board. Because I remember it was me and Paul were on a Star Wars Newsnet Live before before Ahsoka began, and you know, in the trailer she's using, you know, Ezra's lightsaber and all of that, and he said she's going to use the Force and all these things, and I was like, there's no way. Like, there is no way she's going to use the Force, because I did like, that's not the character of Sabine. That's just not who she is. So of course, naturally, Paul was right, and she uses the Force in the finale. And as the show was going on, you kind of knew after a few episodes, I'm like, okay, yeah, clearly she's going to be using the Force by the end of this thing. That's the way this is going. I just think that this speaks to a problem that I've said for a while with Filoni shows and Favreau shows, is that the writing needs some work, and the dialogue is clunky, the scripts are a little bit clunky, and there's not quite enough meat on the bone consistently. And that's where I was with Ahsoka season 1, and Sabine's arc kind of was the entire way that was encapsulated for me in a lot of ways.
I feel like her character too was a little bit jarring. I love Sabine in Rebels, and I don't know if it's because of the appearance was different. When she puts the helmet on, it feels like Sabine. But I was so invested in the portrayal of her in Rebels. So it was a little bit jarring for me. I think I could say the same for Ahsoka. I love Ahsoka in the animated series but it's different. It's a different medium, like the way that she fought and everything. You can't really translate a lot of that to live action.
I have a question for you guys. And because it's about like the training of her being a Jedi in this. So much of her story arc is about her using the Force and being okay with some of the faults that she's seen in herself, forgiving herself for certain things, but it's all tied to like her training as a Jedi. And I just feel like that weakens so much of the Sabine that we knew, because it felt like we had to get to know this brand new Sabine. And like, this isn't the same Sabine. Not that she has to be identical to where we left her off, in Rebels, but it felt like such a different character for me, because she's like Sabine is meditating and trying to use the Force when she is this crazy warrior. Not that she can't meditate being a warrior, but in most of the show, I felt like I just wish this wasn't a role at all. Like Ahsoka can be her mentor without her being like a Jedi Padawan. And I would have liked more for her to think about her like relationship with Ezra. Like, what does that mean to her? Like getting back to him and saving him and feeling she's maybe failed him by not trying to do that sooner. Thinking about how she's, we can bring the fall of Mandalore into this, and her as a warrior that she thought she was setting up, Mandalore for success, and she might feel like she failed Mandalore as well, like similar to the way Bo-Katan does. And there's just so many aspects to her character as a Mandalorian and a member of the Ghost Crew family that I feel like was pushed to the side, that we know about Sabine in order for this Jedi arc to take place, that I think left a lot of people feeling a little unsatisfied. So my question for you is, did you feel similar? But also, what more do we need from her in season 2? Because every other main character, I think I can kind of see where the arc is going, like where the character progression needs to take place. For her, she kind of gets pushed to the side because like Ezra's back in the real galaxy. There's a lot there. Obviously, all the villains have major questions around them. Clearly, Ahsoka does. She's the main character of the show. What's her next step in this evolution? She's now very much, confident in herself again. She's kind of rediscovered her inner peace and her inner joy. And like, we're going to see that kind of take the forefront. Anakin's even got a role to play in all this. But Sabine, I don't really know where her next step is at this point.
Yeah, I think it felt like they did the Jedi arc because this is a show where all these characters do have 4 seasons of history behind them. And so if we're going to reintroduce them to people who probably didn't watch Rebels, let's do this. She's done a Jedi arc. This is how you're going to get to know her. She's learning about herself, and that's helping you learn about her. All that to say, I would have rather had Tyler's Way. I really liked what you said about like, it would have been nice to really touch on her time as the Ghost Crew, what it means to be Mandalorian. She's gone through 4 seasons of change, of growth, to be who she was at the end of that. And so it would have been nice to have a fresh arc. Obviously, you need one for starting a new show, but it really could have just been tied with something else that didn't have to be a Jedi Padawan. So I'm wondering if season 2 is going to actually give us that. We got, which is weird because we set up this whole Jedi thing. She's kind of like coming into her own with the Force, with the lightsaber. And then honestly, what I'd like to see is like, well, how has Kanan's death been affecting her? Like how, maybe not that specifically, but like there's definitely a lot going on with Mandalore. Does she know like what's been going on? Probably not. She's in a different galaxy.
So like we needed more Kanan, something there, just the legacy of that, like to what is going on for her, for Hera. Like there was just a lot of clunkiness there.
Yeah,
Tom,
maybe her and Hera.
You get, or sorry, Luke, I didn't mean to cut you off.
There's, maybe there's more to do with her and Hera. I don't know, there could be
Mhm.
relationship building there too. So Tom, take it
Like
away.
a comment from RG here would have made more sense to have Jason as Ahsoka's apprentice and Sabine just there
Mhm.
fulfilling her promise to find Ezra with Ahsoka. You know,
Hmm.
that yeah, yeah. And then maybe I,
Tired.
would care about little Jason more. I wouldn't mind if he, lived
He looks
and
great in live
existed.
action. Animation, maybe not so much.
I can't wait till they drop a ship on that boy.
Oh, jeez.
Can't wait.
It
Can't
got
wait.
Ice
dark.
cream.
It got dark. Yeah, I mean, just echoing what you guys are saying. Actually, I like that idea of Jason being the apprentice. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I have to rewatch Ahsoka, but they don't do they mention Kanan at all in the
He
show?
was once,
Tiny
one
bit.
time.
Yeah,
It was
and
one
you
time.
feel like,
It was when Jason was using the Force in the World Between Worlds episode, and Hu Yang came in. It actually he's mentioned, I believe, twice. And the first was when Hu Yang said that Jason's father, Kanan Jarrus, was a Jedi Knight, and then I
all
believe
right.
later when Ezra and Hu Yang are talking, and Ezra basically finds a second hilt that belonged to
Yeah.
Kanan. That was like the same style as Kanan's. I think he's mentioned there as well. That's it. That's it.
I guess they were trying to make it as friendly to seeker friendly, as they say, like that they didn't want people to have to watch all of Clone Wars and Rebels to catch up with it, so they kind of glossed over it. But yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I still, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think, and there were some comments about that I feel like we need more of her story, maybe some backstory, some flashbacks. However, as you stated, Tyler, there's a lot of story to tell for season 2, judging by what was said at Celebration, where we left the characters off in season 1. So will we have time for it? I don't know. We just may have to accept it and see how they're going to develop Sabine going forward.
Get excited for that random book that we're gonna get at some
I
point
don't think
that details all of it. Oh, they'll release. There's gonna be something that drops at some point. It may be in a few years. I don't know, but something will happen with this. I'm not going to. I'll
Ahsoka
guarantee
Wayseeker.
that. Ahsoka Wayseeker. I'd vomit in my mouth. Okay. I can if you name it that. No, not after. Do not get me started. Vernestra Rowe. Cannot wait till you're redeemed someday in the world. I cannot wait to get this bad taste in my mouth with Furniture Row. Anyway, moving on.
The
So
Ruby
we have a
Crown.
few minutes left. We have a few minutes left to talk about some Mandalorian and Grogu. So basically presumed was that the Mandalorian season 4 was now changed and adapted into the Mandalorian and Grogu. But turns out the Mandalorian season 4 is sitting on the desk over there at Lucasfilm, ready to go into production at any moment, right? And that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is a different story. It is separate, and it is, based off, a movie structure and not an episodic, TV show serial storytelling structure that like a show would be, which I, for one, am thrilled about, because that means that there's always a chance that we could have the Mandalorian back on Disney Plus in a show format, but also that they did not make the mistake that I was worried they were going to make, which was we're just going to chop up, we're going to take this season that we had and we're just going to chop it up a little bit, mash it together, and there's our film, because you just can't do that. It's not going to feel like a movie if you do that, but it seems like they actually are telling a different story than maybe they were planning to with season 4. I do think it's interesting that season 4 is there. They didn't quite say if it would still fit with the Mandalorian and Grogu existing. Like, would this movie take place before the story they've written for season 4? After? Like, could you still, do that? Would that have to be completely rewritten? That was interesting. But the fact that it's different at all is, I would say, cause for celebration and worth discussing. What do you guys think about this?
I think it's a good thing. It excites me to hear that, because I know there's a lot of, I don't think I fully understand what happened with Kenobi, but that's kind of my understanding, is this story was supposed to be this, change, and they kind of chop it up and we get the 6 episode thing we have. So trying to do that the other way around where like you think you've got this 8-episode thing and you try to morph it around to a 2-hour movie.
Right.
It's not going to go well if you're trying to do that. So I'm really excited that that is not what we're getting. We're getting something that was meant to be a movie from the start is going to be a movie. Sounds crazy to be like praising that or excited for that, but like that is good. That is a good thing. And so yes, you actually hit a good point that like I'm getting more hype for this movie every day, little by little, and I'm going to be pretty excited to see it when it comes out. And so I imagine myself easily wanting more Mandalorian and Grogu after this movie, and it's going to be cool that it's on the table. Like season 4, there's another story written. Maybe you need minor tweaks to make it happen after the movie in the timeline. Just a little timeline situation there. Definitely. Hey, I'm a timeline master myself. I got the spreadsheet up for all of Star Wars.
Luke is the master of the sacred timeline. You say you're getting hyped for this movie day by day. Do you know how many days away we are from the Mandalorian and Grogu with an hour left to go?
185.
So we're 183 days away for the Mandalorian and Grogu. we're every day getting closer. Tomorrow will be 182. Yes. Stay tuned for tomorrow's countdown video. It's a Friday. Oh, are we fired up tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was kind of not as excited, but I feel like the closer we get, like the reality of Star Wars coming back to the theaters is so appealing to me. And I feel like, I can't vouch for how good this movie is going to be, but I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I think it's going to be, they're going to really pull out all the stops for, bringing Mandalorian to the big screen. So I feel like it's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. I feel like there are going to be some surprises. I'm curious to see, more so curious about where they're taking the story. I'm very interested in the New Republic era, because I feel like even though we've had Ahsoka, Mandalorian, and what else? Anything else has been? I feel like
Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew. I feel like there's so much more to explore. Which, by the way, I know you guys were talking about that last week. I like Skeleton Crew. It wasn't like something like that I was like waiting on the edge of my seat for, but I thought that was a good show.
Luke, did you listen to last week's episode? It's okay.
I haven't finished it yet.
People were bashing Skeleton.
Okay. I was expressing some, basically, I don't know what the right word is, just indifference towards Skeleton Crew, I would say. Now, Miguel was like, that show sucked. He's like, I hated that show. That was Miguel.
It's really for younger
I want to say I feel like I expressed some indifference.
RG agrees with me. That's all I need. But yeah, no, I thought it was a breath of fresh air, to be honest. I thought it was fun, and it wasn't like I was looking forward to like each week with Andor or Mandalorian, but it was great for what it was, and it came at a time when there really wasn't much around. So anyway, I don't want to dive too far into that, but I'm looking forward to this movie, to Mandalorian and Grogu. I really want to see what happens.
Comment from RG. I knew that having 2 people from the Shadow Council in the movie, it had to be progressing the story than just being like a side quest type filler movie. I hope it's good. Yes, but is this having 2 people in the Shadow Council doesn't mean anything to me unless they actually do more than just like what we saw in season 4, which was randomly at the end. We're going to have a 2-minute Shadow Council meeting. Like season 3. Is there anything of substance? Sorry, of season 3. Yes. Little do you know that I have the scripts for season 4 on my desk right now. That's where they said that was
the desk they were at.
Actually, this
is Ray Sloan in that?
And this is the desk that they're on.
Mary Jane. But I like that episode quite a bit. I wasn't season 3 was kind of had its high and low points for me. It was a little bit strange pacing and wise, but I really liked that idea of the Shadow Council and Captain Paleon, kind of like setting that table for some of the Thrawn Heir to the Empire series.
It just feels so weird. It's like they're talking about Thrawn's return. They're talking about all of these things, but like, how do they have connections with Thrawn? How do they even know that he's out there? Like, what? It's just again, it's the clunkiness of it all. Like, I need this movie to maybe help. No, before I kind of wanted this to just be its own separate side adventure with maybe little hints of what's to come. But the more I sit in this movie, I'm like, I need this movie to give me some substance for what the next movie is going to be for like the Filoni Mando, the Mandoverse going on over here, because the Shadow Council alludes to Thrawn's return or Thrawn coming back. Well, in Ahsoka, it feels like there's just this magical force thing that the Night Mothers are doing that helps connect Thrawn to getting back and, sending these messages via proxy. Is he able to do that with whoever he wants? The Shadow Council's in there for 5 seconds. It ends with a resounding, "Long live the Empire." Like, I need more in this movie than just 2 minutes with the Shadow Council ending with another "Long live the Empire" chant, and then we just go back to our regularly scheduled Mandalorian blowing stuff up programming. Like, I need to see a little bit more. And then with Manslayer says he want the First Order origin. Like, I want the First Order mentioned by name. Like, I want it mentioned. Like, I need
too early for that. But I do want to see connective tissue.
Is it though? Like, I don't know the full timeline for when the First Order began, but at this point in the Mandalorian timeline, we're almost a decade removed from Return of the Jedi, right? Like, the show season 1 takes place. Like, we're like a decade removed, and
so we're almost
Force
halfway.
Awakens. Yeah.
Actually, no. Yeah, it's more like 4 or 5 years. It's 4 or 5 years.
It's got to be more
from
than
Return
that.
of the Jedi. No, it's 9 ABY, which Return of the Jedi is 4 ABY.
Only 5 years.
5.
That's it.
6 years.
Yeah, that's probably about right, because Mandalorian season 1 was supposed to be 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay, so 5 years after Return of the Jedi, you're telling me there's been 1 year that's passed in between Mandalorian season 1 and the Mandalorian and Grogu? Like 1 year? That's it?
Maybe 2. I really think it's that compressed. Could be wrong, but I feel like there's been comments. I feel like that was a show we had with like the comments that Favreau made.
That Grogu was with Luke for a longer period of time than it appeared.
That's what the whole discussion was.
Yeah.
But it makes
Favreau
no
said, like,
sense when you watch it.
Yeah, Grogu's been with Luke for 2.5 years, and I think people were like, "Oh, he spent 2." No, it's because 2.5 years elapsed between the release of this show and the release of this show. Like, that's not what happened in universe. I don't think.
Yeah. But it's just, man, I don't know. Maybe it's not as much time as I thought. But it's just, if this is supposed to connect all the seeds together and the First Order literally is able to destroy the Republic in a matter of seconds in The Force Awakens, which is 25 years after this, where are they getting the fleet? How Starkiller Base, it took the Empire how many years to build the Death Star? You can't tell me that Starkiller Base is taking less time than the Empire.
It took the Empire 4 years to build it. Death Star 2.
The 4 years. Death Star 2. I'm talking about the first Death Star. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, they made another one in 4 years.
I know they made another one.
They can do it. And they had a planet to mine.
20 years?
Like, they didn't even have to build it. It was a planet.
Well, okay. They built into the planet. That has to be more difficult, and it launches with the power of the sun. You cannot tell me that Starkiller Base took
So you're
less
telling me you
time.
didn't have to build the energy source? You can just take energy, and then it's just a planet. You just have to mine down in it. You don't have to build it.
Right, but in testing and creating something to do that without destroying
You think they're testing
your entire
and creating?
planet has
They
to do
don't
this.
care about economics or safety. They're
They
trying
have
to
to
kill as many people.
They have to make sure that it's safe, because obviously Hux is sitting on the planet with Kylo Ren, and I don't think they're trying to kill their entire leadership. Well, in the first launching of Starkiller Base to destroy the Republic, and I would be flabbergasted if you're going to tell me that the First Order has the same resources that the Empire does to get their projects done, considering the scale that the Empire was at. And we know the First Order was at a much smaller scale than the Empire had to have been. and they're able to do that in just a couple of years. No, this was something taking place over a long period of time, and I think that it took many years to do this. And I would love if we had Snoke mentioned in some way, First Order is brought up in some way, or at least the idea of like the conception of a Starkiller base is brought up somewhere. Doesn't have to be Mandalorian and Grogu, but like just somewhere in this universe. If I had to see another failed cloning experiment with Snoke's theme without any real tangible thing to take away from me.
I felt like that should have stayed mysterious and not been just Moff Gideon cloning himself. Like, because you feel like it's a good lead into Snoke, but
they play Snoke's theme.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably still related, but it's just kind of like a red herring there, to throw us off.
This is a fair point.
It's unfortunate that we kind of know what happens. But like you said, someone said it earlier before, it's like, we knew what happened in, Andor eventually, and look at how great that was, how they told that story. So, so I'm excited. I mean, we're going to get some more Star Wars. I
mean, you look at every project outside of the saga films, since 1999, we know how they end. Like, we know how the Clone Wars end. We know how the prequels were going to end. Like, we knew how Andor was going to, knowing how it ends does not bother me at all. Like, in the slightest, is if you deliver a great execution along the way. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, do I want every project to be like that? No, but with this one, we know how it ends, as in, like, we've seen episode 9, but there's so much unknown in my opinion, for like the creation of the First Order. There's a lot of, I think, information. Luke would probably know more about this than me, of just how Snoke rose to the First Order. I think is in certain comics and reference books and things like that. But again, like, that's very niche information that most fans aren't aware of. And the construction of Starkiller Base. There's so much here. How Thrawn is going to play a role in what happens moving forward, because it just feels like a lot of legwork for Ahsoka to do on its own, without Mandalorian and Grogu doing some of that legwork. If they're still going to move forward with Filoni getting started on his movie as soon as they're done.
I could see a narrow way through where Filoni's movie that ends with Thrawn's defeat is the death of the Empire, but Brendel Hux survives. He's on the Shadow Council, and so that's where we kind of have our maybe like, hey, he's still around, and the bad guys aren't all dead. Like, the First Order is coming, and they're being built now from the ashes, from the cinder of the Empire. So maybe we get a series spun out of the crossover movie that ends it all. It spins out, and it's like First Order starting. I think it could make sense to flow into that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it's gonna be a fun ride. I'm ready for some Star Wars in the theater. That's what I'm ready for.
Me too.
I am sure of that, if nothing else. And any other things before we start wrapping up here? I got something to share.
Manslayer. It's Commander Pyre is the gold stormtrooper.
He asked.
Okay. He said, he said if Commander Pyre is the gold stormtrooper, yes. And he said if we rent an airplane to fly above Disney, what message do you choose to use?
Manslayer, I do have some flight experience, so if we can get a plane, I'd be able to fly it.
Tom's just got everything. He's got experience for everything. I love it. But like, what's your message? Like, I'm serious. What is it? I know mine.
Why
Sabine? It is incredibly pointless.
Why Sabine?
He's going to talk about that scene with Ahsoka.
No, it's incredibly pointless. It's give me updated galactic conquest mode. That's all I want in life. If Lucasfilm and Disney like were to
force a Star Wars game that just gives me the 2005 Galactic Conquest mode from Star Wars Battlefront 2, but just completely updated with the same exact mode, just completely updated with all the characters, planets. I can play each era, and there's just more planets to choose from, and I can do the same exact thing pretty much. I will never, ever ask for anything again. I'm not even joking. Like I will just sit here and be content with life forever. And I'll still critically critique, but I'm never gonna sit here and go, you know what they really need to release, or what we really need, story wise. No, just if they give me that, I'm good. Like I'm serious. I will be the most content person that has ever walked the earth. I'm not even joking. I am not exaggerating in the slightest right now. I want that so bad.
I think my banner would say, "Give me Chasing Aslan Rel." The story that spins out of Trials of the Jedi.
I think you just need to find
our
George
number one
Mann's
priority.
home. You just need to find George Mann's home and see if he can start working on it, so we can just go pitch it and be ready to go. That sounds creepy. Someone's gonna copy this. Be like, creepy person online says, "Go find George Mann's house." He said, "Where is D Squad?" Tom, what would you say?
Yeah, I would probably want more Luke Jedi Academy.
But
Yeah.
it would just be
I
like,
mean,
it would just be like,
Luke
more
Jedi.
Luke. That's all. More
Luke.
Luke. Just more Luke.
What's happening
all
on
it's saying.
Ossus?
What's happening on Ossus? Release the Ossus cinematic universe, the OCU.
There you go.
There was another time in my life where, and then Luke knows this, where every day I was tweeting at Dave Filoni's Twitter account that he had not used for 8 years, and I would just put a random character and be like, "Give us the Miru Gascon cinematic universe, Dave. We know you have it. Release the episodes, or
Release the
I would
WAG
say
2
something,
movie."
Yeah, where is the WAG 2 standalone film? I need to know how the Lerman people survived or were destroyed during the Clone Wars. I think there's
The
one
D-Squad movie.
who may have had one about Borkus. There was just I need a Borkus standalone villain. There was one. It was where is the Dr. Nuru Vindi series, so I can see the evolution of how he created the Blue Shadow virus. It was just me every day annoying the heck out of Dave Filoni's account, even though he had not used that in years. But every day I think it was during COVID. I was so bored. I was just tweeting release the Nuru Vindi universe. It got one like every day. It was Luke. Yep. Manslayer says an origin story about how Porkus inherited that diner.
Give me more of the Stranger.
It turns him into a tragic hero.
I need more of the Stranger. I want Chimere back.
That would be good.
Yes.
Yes. A couple things before we wrap up. There was, I don't know if you saw, Luke, the MegaCon Orlando announcement today.
Didn't see that today.
It wouldn't mean really anything to you, so I'm surprised that it didn't necessarily pop up on your radar. But this one, it popped up on my phone. I'm in the middle of class today, and I have MegaCon Orlando alerts set at this time of the year. Usually once October hits, I set alerts on because that's when they start dropping some celebrity announcements here or there. And I like to, see if they pop up on my phone. Sometimes it's I have no idea who that person is. No idea. Today was a day that I legit almost shed tears outside because I was genuinely so happy and excited. And they announced that a Star Trek The Next Generation cast reunion is going to take place with Brent Spiner, Gates McFadden, and Jonathan Frakes, who play Commander Riker, Data, and Dr. Crusher. And The Next Generation, one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I've seen every episode of the show. I've watched all the movies. I have then watched Star Trek Picard, which is, takes place with a lot of those characters recurring, with their roles, and just the fact that was one of my favorite Star Trek shows of all time, some of my favorite characters of all time, but throw all that in with like when I was watching the show, I was updating my dad constantly on the shows I was watching, the episode that I was on, some of my favorite lines. He'd reminisce about that episode. We'd talk about it. We'd break it down. He would be like, I forgot what happened. Like, give me a couple of hints and see if I can figure it out. So it was like a really big bonding thing for my dad and I, but then also a way for us kind of to remember his dad, my late grandfather, who was a massive Star Trek fan, loved The Next Generation, would have loved the kind of the day and age of streaming where he could just go watch all the Star Trek shows that he grew up with and that all the new Star Trek shows. So to have the three of them coming to my city that I live in and possibly having the opportunity to meet them, ask them a couple questions, listen to them talk in like a panel about, what it was like to be on the show, the movies. Jonathan Frakes has directed Star Trek, a lot of Star Trek as well. And like, I don't know, I'm really excited about that there's probably not another announcement that realistically they could make that would get me more invested at this point. When I first went to MegaCon Orlando a couple of years ago, Jonathan Frakes was supposed to be there up until about a week before he canceled. And I was really sad because I had this whole plan of like, I was going to meet Jonathan Frakes. And that was when I was in the middle of my TNG rewatch or watch through. So I'm really hoping that, the fact that they're all three, slated to be there, I'm like, okay, like they've locked in a trio for a panel. So I'm really excited about it. Fingers crossed that Luke and I get some panel passes. We applied to do another fan panel this year at MegaCon Orlando, so hopefully that gets accepted and pushed through. We kind of took our idea from last year. We're adapting it a little bit more, and it's one of those situations where I want us to start working on it, but I'm like, I don't want to put work into it if we don't know that like we're gonna get accepted. Like I don't want to, not that we need to do a lot because we're doing mostly the same, but neither here nor there. And then, of course, I'm also going to apply for some like media passes for us to cover the event for the site and for my personal account as well with Luke there for that too. But anyway, I just thought I'd share some of that because I was really, really excited about those three being there. And it was one where there's not many individuals I would probably shell out a couple $100 to get a picture with. That's in the short list. I've told you guys before, I'm not a big photo op guy. I kind of just want to go have like a quick experience. That's a photo op. That's a photo op for me.
Yeah, totally.
Probably.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Any final words before we get out of here?
This was fun. I think I had a good time. I feel like we flowed really well tonight.
Yeah. Anything, Tom?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was we had a spirited discussion. I like those.
Spirited.
Go watch that scene right now. It's only 11:20.
Okay, I'll watch it.
I got a homework assignment I got to finish before midnight. So, Luke, what are you doing?
I was watching the scene. Now you're telling me not to watch it?
I'm telling you to go watch it. No, watch it on your TV.
We have to do.
TV.
We have to find a way to do something like that where we could play something and then react to it in real time.
We can. Like, there's. I tried to do it once. My
for a quick scene, they may not be the Disney goons.
We'll make it happen. We can make it happen. So we're not gonna have a show next Thursday. It's Thanksgiving. We're gonna take the week off. I think we're all probably busy with family, friends, and whatnot. So we won't be having a live show next week. Ideally, and Tom, this is me telling you this for the first time, but ideally, I would like to release next Thursday the first episode of the Mando rewatch show that Tom and I are going to be doing. Because Tom, guess what? I'm going to actually have some time to, record. I'm going to take some of my stuff with me to my parents' house. Probably not my mic, so the audio quality might not be, the best in the world, but we're going to make it happen. And so we'll have probably next Thursday, I'll try to release Tom and I's first episode of our Mando rewatch, where we're going to go through, talk about the story, favorite shots, favorite behind the scenes things that we've learned over the years, little Easter eggs, just kind of re-exploring the Mandalorian timeline. I think it'd be fun for the two of us to kind of walk through that. Maybe We'll have an occasional, third person on there as well. Luke and I have recorded episode 55 of the Timeline Show, Trail of Shadows. I'll probably be dropping that over the weekend, so keep your eyes out for that on Apple, Spotify. If you want to listen to that instead of watch, we covered Trail of Shadows 1 through 5, episode 55 Timeline Show. It was a good time. I am excited as always for the next episode of the Timeline Show to be out. We'll be covering Eye of the Storm 2-issue run next, which is going to be a lot of fun because those are massive comic issues and was one of my 5 favorite High Republic stories in the entire run. So anyway, so those are some things to look out for. Check out Miguel's Sunday piece. He always publishes Another Week in a Galaxy Far, Far Away, which is kind of like his weekly newsletter for the site, for Star Wars in general. Go check that out. It's always a very good read. Miguel is a fantastic writer. He has a lot of great thoughts. He gives a lot of context of what's going on in the Star Wars universe and will connect you to places even other than Star Wars Newsnet that are having quality things to say about what's going on in the Star Wars universe. So definitely go check that out. You can follow me at Star Wars Book Dude on TikTok, at TyreBread5 on Twitter, and check out Star Wars Newsnet for everything Star Wars as always. I wish we could say we'll see you next Thursday night live, but that is not the case. But you'll probably see Tom and I's faces pre-recorded on your screen talking about The Mandalorian. But in 2 weeks, we'll be back for another episode of Star Wars Newsnet Live, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Until next time, remember everyone, for light and life, we are all going to watch that Ahsoka scene and wish it was better.